Welcome back to Real Estate 101. I'm your host, Joe Terceira, and today we're going to continue our discussion about everything home renovations, and I'm pleased to be joined once again by Daniel Ott of Artisan Contracting. Daniel, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Joe. It's great to be back.
So Daniel, tell me, what are the typical reasons a homeowner would consider a basement renovation?
Well, generally speaking, they're looking for more space. Why? It could be their family's growing. It could be they have a teenager who needs their own space downstairs.
Right.
Perhaps they want to rent it out, a rental unit.
Okay. Are there any reasons that you as a contractor would try to talk a homeowner out of a basement renovation?
Let me give a bit of background to answer that question first. I view my job not only as someone to sit there and do whatever homeowner wants and get it done.
Right.
I view my job also as an expert to give opinions and more information so that the homeowner can give a well-informed decision on their own. So there might be other alternatives that might be a better fit for their situation than finishing their basement.
Okay.
By no means am I ever going to tell somebody that I don't want to work for them.
Right, right. Now, in your experience, what are the typical or normal spaces do you see included in a average basement renovation?
Well, first of all, you're going to need a space for the mechanical room and probably some storage in there because the furnace and all that needs to be somewhere separate. Following that, generally about half of the basement is used up as a large rec room.
A rec area?
A TV room, workout room, whatever you have. And then two rooms that people always want to include are a bedroom and a bathroom. And that includes whether it's for their teenager or a spare bedroom or whatever.
Okay. So are there any more specific things that homeowners would want to include in their basement space when they're renovating?
Yes, and it very much depends on the size of the basement, of course. We just finished a rather large basement that has several bedrooms, plus a studio, several storage rooms. The other things to consider are to get more specific in the spaces that you have. The bathroom, for instance, should never just be a powder room, just in case it's going to be a rental unit or a spare bedroom or a teenager space. You need to have at least a shower in there. Another thing to consider is in the rec room area, a wet bar or a small kitchenette.
All right. So these are added features that they
Yes.
can add to accentuate the basement. Okay. Now, what about finishes for the basement? Are you normally finding homeowners using the same quality finishes in their basement as they would in, you see on their main levels?
This very much depends on how your basement is or what you're going to be using it for. If you have a walkout basement, for instance, if someone's going to be in the backyard using your pool or your hot tub, the space that they're going to enter into is your basement. So you're going to want to finish that in the same way as the rest of the home is finished. But if it's a rental unit, people are usually using a little less quality. Right. Or if it's your teenager, they're probably going to destroy it in 5 years anyways. So don't be putting stone countertops down and that sort of thing.
Right. Are there any considerations when choosing a floor finish for the basement?
Absolutely. The typical finish in a basement is carpet. It's easy, it's cheap,
right,
and you put tile in your bathroom always. The reason for this being that you have a concrete floor in your basement, and carpet softens that up a bit. However, there's also a consideration that concrete wicks moisture from underneath. So you either need to use a protective moisture barrier or an upgraded underpad, that sort of thing. But perhaps someone wants to use hardwood on their floor. That should be mentioned right away before any work gets done because we're going to want to put a moisture protected subfloor on top of everything. This gives the floor a much softer feel, it levels it out a lot, and gives something for the hardwood to be glued to. We don't like to nail in a basement because that will penetrate the moisture barrier that's underneath the subfloor.
Right.
Another thing to consider, we'll do whatever you want, but a natural hardwood is not a good idea just because of the higher moisture content in a basement. So an engineered hardwood is a much better idea.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about permits. do you suggest, or is it a must for permits to be pulled whenever a basement renovation is being done?
Most basements in Ontario are finished without a permit.
Right.
We talked about it on another episode. We suggest that anytime structural work gets done, that you should pull out a building permit. In a basement renovation, this would include such things as taking out a center bearing wall and putting a beam in. Or we've done a few basements where, because you're making a livable space and the builder included one of those, or some of those really small windows, we make the windows bigger. We make them wider, we make them deeper. Those sort of things are structural changes that will require a building permit.
Okay, now does a building permit change the way the renovation is done or performed when the basement is being worked on?
Yes. One of the biggest issues has always been the HVAC, so your heating and air conditioning. The Ontario codes say that in a finished basement, the ductwork should be near floor level. When a builder is done a basement in an unfinished basement home, the ductwork ends at the ceiling height. In order to get that to the floor, we have to add a couple elbows and 10 feet of pipe. This actually reduces the airflow unless the furnace and the ductwork has been properly designed for this scenario. So sometimes we have to end up replacing the larger ducts even,
right,
the main ones that do the whole house. Another thing to consider, as of January 2012, the insulation codes changed for Ontario. So a basement now requires R20 insulation, whereas before it was R12. So if you have an already semi-finished basement, that, or even one from within the last 10 years that the builder has put foundation wrap on, an insulation wrap, that's only going to be R12. We have to take that down, frame the walls with 2x6, and put the proper sized insulation in.
To get the R20 value. Okay, so for today's final question, all things considered that we just talked about, do you think it's a good idea to finish a basement?
That depends on the client, Joe. Like I said, we like to give everyone different options, and they can make an informed decision as to what is the best route for their family to take. An opportune example for why someone should finish a basement is you're looking for that more space for your family, but you live in a newer subdivision and you don't have a backyard. You can't put an addition on.
Right.
What else are you going to do?
Yeah,
you have to finish your basement.
Your basement, all right. Okay, Dan, thanks a lot for coming again on today's show. You brought a lot of good information. Looking forward to seeing you next month again when we continue our discussion about everything home renovations.
Thanks a lot, Joe. As always, I enjoy being here.
If anybody has any more questions or would like more information on home renovations or basement renovations, they can get in contact with Daniel Ott of Artisan Contracting. I'm Joe Terceira. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.